at 2:30. Blair Kerkhoff, the Kansas City Star columnist, has been doing that for a long, long time with Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and I'm David Smoak. And Blair, thanks for your time. Your thoughts about what Lance Leipold has done at Kansas and what this specific game Saturday with Oklahoma means for the program?
Yeah, it's a big one for sure. I was around for the beginning of, the beginning and the middle and the end of the tenures of Glenn Mason and Mark Mangino, and what Lance Leipold has done reminds me of that. He, bad first year, in a rebuilding and a reconfiguring of the program, restructuring, and you take your lumps, but you show some signs of improvement. You don't get blown out as often as you used to, and then year two, which was true for Mason and Mangino, and it was true last year for Leipold, make strides that are like, wow. I mean, we haven't seen this in a long time, and that's what happened with Kansas last year when they went to the bowl game. Now he's in year three. Lance Leipold is, and got the team, in a pretty good position. They're thinking bowl game for a second straight year, and even a little bit beyond that. So. It's he's got, they've got the games sold out this weekend and in Oklahoma, and they've had a few sellouts this year. So, basketball practice has started and people are just putting that on hold for a little while. Kansas fans are, got a little football to watch. So, we'll see what happens Saturday.
What would you say is the next step for him in the coming year or so to go past where Kansas is the good story and where they're legitimately feared?
That's a good question. The first step in that direction, I think a Kansas fan will tell you, is to beat Kansas State. And Kansas State has won, I think, 13 straight in the series. So it's been just an embarrassment for the Jayhawks. So once they get past K-State, and look, in those years, Kansas State, the better team. I think Kansas State was favored in all of those games. So Kansas State, the better team, and held serve and did what it was supposed to do. So in that time, Kansas has just tried to just win its state, just be the better program in the state. And I think once they get there, if that's the level where Kansas can reach, well, then I think they can feel ready to beat, the programs in the conference that have been, drubbing, programs of similar revenue status that have been drubbing them over the years. The Iowa States, the Baylors, the Oklahoma States, the Wildcats, of course, TCU, Texas Tech, just been handling Kansas. They need to get on a more even playing surface with those programs for the Kansas fans to feel good about themselves. And look, be in a bowl game every year. I don't think there's any reason why a major college football program can't be in a bowl game every year, the way you can control scheduling. And at least 6 wins a year should be an objective for Kansas.
Blair, how's the Jaydon Daniels situation just kind of been felt up there? Obviously, Jason Bean, about as sturdy of a backup quarterback as you could find in the entire country. No lack of experience there, but obviously, that was a big part of the hype coming in was Jaydon Daniels' return. So what's that just sort of been like in terms of the way it's discussed and the impact that's had on their season?
Yeah, he was preseason Offensive Player of the Year in the Big 12, and a lot of expectations for him coming into this season after missing half a season last year with an injury, and now he's missed the last couple of games with the back injury, and I don't think he's going to play Saturday against the Sooners. So it'll be Jason Bean, and you're right, Jason Bean is absolutely a capable quarterback and would start at a lot of places in FBS. But there's a difference between Bean and Jaydon Daniels, and against really good competition, you want to have Jaydon Daniels back there if you're Kansas, and I don't think it's going to happen this week. So Bean has put up some big numbers. He had the 5 touchdown passes against Oklahoma State, and the passing offense looked great. But he threw 2 interceptions in the fourth quarter. One was tipped, but he threw 2, and that ultimately got Kansas State beat in Stillwater. Jaydon Daniels is just a difference-making quarterback, and I just, a back is a tricky injury, that's for sure. But it just, I was thinking he'd be back for this game after missing a couple weeks, but it just doesn't look like it's going to be the case.
Blair, I know that it's in the Big Ten, but it's still a huge story with what's happening with Michigan. What are your thoughts on the allegations and what, in fact, I just saw something else that came down that the NCAA is actually interviewing and has been talking to some of the staff at Michigan under Jim Harbaugh?
My sense is, and I don't know this for a fact, which means I haven't asked other coaches about this, but I've just been under the impression that people steal signs. It happens. It happens in every sport at every level. It happens more in college football because you don't have the helmet communication with a coach the way you do in high school and in the NFL. So there's a little bit more sign stealing going on, but a lot of programs, a lot of teams do it. What's different about this is the level of, and I'm using air quotes here, sophistication that Michigan used, the elaborate schemes that Michigan used to do it. And what has to be part of any conversation here is Michigan has portrayed itself as, the best of the best when it comes to playing by the rules. And they don't cheat at Michigan. And even Jim Harbaugh went on told a reporter since he's been at Michigan that, look, the SEC cheats. No, we don't cheat. Well, yeah, you do, right? You cheat. And this is how you do it. And others may be doing it. And, I found it interesting this week when with coaches at press conferences all being asked about it and, a lot of them really not wanting to say a whole lot about it. And I think it's because they know that they do it. They just haven't done it to the level that it's happening at Michigan. And you're right, the NCAA is going to get involved. I think the Big Ten office is going to get involved. And we're in a little bit of uncharted territory here, having this type of thing happen in the middle, smack dab in the middle of the season to a team that I think we all believe could get to the college football playoff. So it'll be fascinating to see how this unfolds.
Yeah, Blair, you listen to people talk about it, and I think they just don't want to explain how they actually steal the signs, which is legal. If you do it the right way, but they also want to be wary of, is there a coach on their staff that's actually gone to the Connor Stallions thing and they're negligent of it? I know there's so many different weird tentacles to this, but the biggest one is the NCAA is not really going to do anything about it. Look, you cover Kansas. It took 6 years to figure that out, and the FBI gave them a really long head start.
I thought about the Kansas thing in relation to what's going on at Michigan. What happened with Kansas when as it unfolded in the early years. It started in 2017. But it was established early on that the NCAA wouldn't investigate Kansas. This would all be handled by the IARP, the independent panel that had been empowered by the NCAA. So that happened with other schools as well. The IARP handled Memphis and NC State and a few other of the Adidas basketball schools that were caught up in the scandal. And as those decisions were coming in, they all got off, remarkably. It's nobody paid any big penalty. Kansas has to vacate some wins and take down a Final Four banner, but they didn't lose scholarships, and their postseason's not in jeopardy. So I think the NCAA was furious at the way the IARP handled it, and I wonder what the mood is at the NCAA. With the perception out there, at least in some circles, that they got hoodwinked by the IARP and some of these high-profile basketball issues. Are they going to come with their, with fangs on this? Are they going to come, looking to make a statement when it comes to Michigan? I don't know. We'll have to see. But it is an unprecedented thing for this to be happening in the middle of the season to a program like Michigan.
Blair, going back to Kansas, is there much discussion at all about the fact that this is the last matchup with Oklahoma for, well, maybe the foreseeable future, or certainly, and maybe ever for as much as we know?
Yeah, I don't think that got asked this week in Norman or in Lawrence because it's this way, right, for every one of the
Right.
Texas and the OU opponents, as they play, as they continue. It's funny, the Oklahoma series with Kansas is that goes back into the Oklahoma joined, and Oklahoma State joined the conference that KU was in 1920. So more than 100 years they've been conference members. And look, this is the way of the world. We've all had more than a year to get used to the idea that these two are going to part ways. And I don't think Kansas will be a future Oklahoma football opponent. We know future football opponents are they're into the 2030s right now, and I know KU and Oklahoma aren't scheduled to play. What Kansas has done in this realm, though, they have found a way to schedule Missouri. So KU and Missouri are going to play a 2-game series later on. K-State and Missouri just finished up a 2-game series, and they're all finding their way back in basketball and other sports. So I think they'll reconnect elsewhere. I just don't think you're going to see I don't think you're going to see it on the gridiron in the next 10 to 15 years.
Blair, if you don't mind, the Big 12, as you know, is about to expand. Kelvin Sampson talked about no Chihuahuas, et cetera, Shih Tzus, but there's a lot of German Shepherds. Just the way that this conference is being put together, what we have this year, and then to add like Arizona, among others, the next year, even though Texas and Oklahoma are leaving, right there where you are, where they host the tournament, and they should every year. It's a great place to host it. They do a great job. Your thoughts about the battering ram of Big 12 basketball?
I love what Big 12 basketball is and what it's going to become. I really do. I am such a big basketball aficionado and love the atmospheres and the going to games where fans just students get to sit close and make a ton of noise. I'm really looking forward to seeing the new arena at Baylor when it opens up in January. But yeah, you're right. Arizona coming in, and Utah has a great basketball tradition, and we already know about Houston and Cincinnati with their heritage in basketball, and I think it's going to be great. I think the one thing to look for as we go forward is who's going to be playing each other home and away in the future. I think there's an opportunity for Kansas and Baylor, Kansas and Arizona, along with KU, K-State, and for there to be just a continuation of some great rivalries and the addition of others. So 20-game conference schedule coming up, and a full 16-team tournament coming up in Kansas City in a couple of years. Yeah, I'm all in for basketball.
Blair, I had one note from the chat room. I know we got to go, and you do too. Is it supposed to be kind of nasty? Is it just going to be rainy, sprinkly, or is it going to be worse than that on Saturday?
Cold, wind, and rain on Saturday. Highs in the upper 30s, maybe gets to 50. I'm sitting here now at 75 degrees. We just got through 3 days of rain, about 7 inches in my area. Rain's pushed out, cold weather's coming in, and it is going to be an interesting weather day in Kansas City, in Lawrence, and this area on Saturday. Something to pay attention to. I couldn't tell you who that favors. Maybe Oklahoma, but with the ability. Kansas runs the ball really well.
Yep.
A couple of really nice running backs. So absolutely, it's going to be factored into the equation, the weather on Saturday.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time, Blair. Great stuff with the Kansas City Star. Blair Kerkhoff on KU and Lance Leipold, their game with Oklahoma on Saturday. And Paxton said,